Hello, good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Victoria Valentine and Ben Boulos.
Our headlines today. The death toll from the earthquake in Morocco rises above 2,000 as rescue teams search for survivors.
I'm Anna Holligan in Marrakesh, where thousands of families have spent a second night sleeping outside, too afraid to go home in case of aftershocks.
Back in custody, but questions remain about how terror suspect Daniel Khalifa was able to escape from prison.
And good morning from Marseille, where England fans have been celebrating their team's win in the face of adversity. It was remarkable because despite being a man down for most of their opening Rugby World Cup match, they stunned Argentina thanks to the kicking skills of George Ford and his audacious drop goals.
Good morning from Newcastle, where in around 5 hours' time, around 60,000 people will be lining up here to take part in this year's Great North Run.
Good morning. Our September heatwave continues, and today is likely to be the 7th consecutive day with temperatures above 30 degrees. But with the heat and the humidity that we've got comes the threat of some thunderstorms. They could be torrential and bring some flash flooding at times. I'll have all the details coming up shortly.
Hello there, good morning. It's Sunday, the 10th of September. Our main story. At least 2,000 people have been killed in a devastating earthquake in Morocco. A further 2,000 more have been injured, and the authorities have now declared 3 days of national mourning.
The quake struck in a remote area in the Atlas Mountains, around 45 miles south of Marrakesh, a popular tourist destination. Our correspondent Nick Beak has this report. OK, Anna, many thanks indeed for that. Anna Holligan there with the latest for us. And we'll be hearing from those involved in the rescue efforts and local journalists. We'll be speaking to them a little later in the programme. For now, though, let's find out what else is happening today. And Victoria has more of the day's news.
Yes, great. Thanks, Ben. Yes, let's start with the terror suspect, Daniel Khalifa, because he's expected now to be transferred to a high security prison following his arrest after 4 days on the run. Questions remain about how this 21-year-old was able to escape from Wandsworth Prison in London. Vincent McAvenny is outside Scotland Yard for us. Vincent, what more can you tell us? Oh, it's been very toasty, hasn't it?
Lovely.
Yes.
It? Perfect garden weather. If you're lucky enough to have a garden or the park nearby, gorgeous.
Yeah, I suppose so. I was stuck on a train for 6 hours with no aircon. It was a little toasty.
You can enjoy the view, the beautiful, sun-kissed hills and fields as you go past.
Yeah. Shall we find out what's going on with the weather and speak to Sarah? Good morning, Sarah. How are you?
Hi.
Good morning to you, Victoria and Ben. Very well, thank you. Morning to you at home too. Yes, it splits opinion, doesn't it, this hot weather? Some people love it. Other people are fairly keen to see at the back of it. Now, today we've got, yes, another hot and humid day, but we have got those and showers really through the week ahead. Victoria and Ben.
Well, yeah, I suppose some people will be relieved to see those little drops of rain on the outlook. Sarah, thank you very much. We'll see you later.
Rescue teams are racing to find survivors trapped in the rubble of flattened villages following the earthquake that struck Morocco late on Friday night.
The death toll now stands at more than 2,000. Joining us from Marrakesh is Moroccan journalist Hassan Aloui. Hassan, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Just tell us how you and your family were affected. Yeah, enjoy the atmosphere. But look forward to speaking to you a little later, Alison. Thank you.
We've got loads of great sport coverage for you today, starting with Mike, who is in Marseille for the Rugby World Cup. What a day to be there. Oh, look, I see you've got your own private transport.
Oh yes, yeah, just cruising around on my new little acquisition, the bateau, later today, the Coral Ocean. Actually, if I'm honest, this is more my size. Rather cosy, but it's quaint. Morning, bon matin. Oh, no, and having a sing-song as well. In fine voice, sir, in fine voice. I have to say, though, yeah, what a story from the US Open. It's the men's final, of course, today. Well, that's it for now from Marseille. The sun's just about to come up. It's going to get very hot, so I'm going to go for a little cup of tea with my new friends in fine voice this morning. Maybe join them for a sea shanty. Merci. Hi. Bonjour.
Oh gosh, Mike near the water, climbing into a boat.
There we go. Merci. Bonjour. Bonjour.
Where have you been, Mike? He's looking at the
cozy,
time.
but it's
Where have you
bigger than you
been?
think.
They've been ready to set sail. They've been waiting for you.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be back in time for, 7 o'clock?
Well, we should hope so. Enjoy the little cruise around the harbour. So see you later. How wonderful. Making the most of it. When in Marseille. Talking about places to escape to, it's time now for the travel show. Hello, good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Victoria, Valentine and Ben Boulos.
Our headlines today. The death toll from the earthquake in Morocco rises above 2,000 as rescue teams search for survivors.
I'm Anna Holligan in the heart of Marrakesh, where thousands of people have spent a second night sleeping outside, too afraid to go home in case of more aftershocks.
Back in custody, but questions remain about how terror suspect Daniel Khalifa was able to escape from prison.
2 men have been arrested amid allegations that a parliamentary researcher was spying for China.
Good morning from the streets of Marseille, where England fans have been celebrating a remarkable win in the face of adversity. Despite being a man down after 3 minutes in their opening World Cup match, they stunned Argentina thanks to the amazing kicking skills of George Ford.
Good morning. Our September heatwave continues, and today is likely to be the 7th consecutive day with temperatures above 30 degrees. But with the heat and the humidity that we've got comes the threat of some thunderstorms. They could be torrential and bring some flash flooding at times. I'll have all the details coming up shortly.
Hello there, good morning. It's Sunday, the 10th of September. Our main story today, at least 2,000 people have been killed in a devastating earthquake in Morocco. A further 2,000 more have been injured, and the authorities have now declared 3 days of national mourning.
The quake struck in a remote area in the Atlas Mountains, around 45 miles south of Marrakesh, a popular tourist destination. Our correspondent Nick Beak has this report. OK, Anna, thank you very much for the update. Anna Holligan there for us in Marrakesh. And we'll be hearing from those involved in the rescue efforts a little later on Breakfast. But for now, let's get some more of the day's news with Victoria.
Thanks, Ben. Yes, let's talk about Daniel Khalifa, the terror suspect. He is now expected to be transferred to a high-security prison following his arrest after 4 days on the run. Questions remain about how the 21-year-old was able to escape from a prison in London, the Wandsworth prison. Vincent McAvenny is outside Scotland Yard. Vincent, what more can you tell us? Thank you so much for bringing us that update. Thanks, Tony.
Right, I've had a glorious weekend of sunshine in many parts of the UK. Will it continue, though? Sarah's here with the details. How's it looking then, Sarah?
Well, Ben and Victoria, it's not looking too bad out there first thing this morning. Some beautiful sunrises, but it's hot, it's humid from the word go. And we are in for another scorcher today, particularly in the south, for much of the week ahead. Back to you, Ben and Victoria.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So it looks like about 32 or so as a high today. It's on its way down. Yes. Everyone, calm down. It's on its way down.
See you later.
Thank you.
You're watching Breakfast. It's just gone 7:15. Now, questions have been raised about the safety of school buildings after it emerged that more than 100 have been forced to close when they are found to contain potentially dangerous concrete known as wrack.
Well, our home editor, Mark Easton, has been finding out a few more details in Incident Room, Concrete Chaos.
Until that is, without warning, the roof falls in.
Hello, good morning. This is Breakfast with Victoria, Valentine and Ben Boulos.
Good morning. Let's get a summary, shall we, of the main stories here on BBC News, but we will do that in just a moment. We are here, aren't we, on BBC One until 9 o'clock?
Yes, and then after that, it's time for Sunday with Laura Kuenssberg. Laura, what have you got lined up for us today?
Hi Ben, hi Victoria. Well, it is a busy one because it's been a huge weekend of news, hasn't it? Not least with that manhunt that did manage to track down and grab that terror suspect Daniel Khalif. We will be talking to the man in government, the Justice Secretary Alex Chalk, who a few days ago promised he'd have answers on his desk about exactly what happened. So we'll be putting him to the test this morning and try to get to the bottom of what really went on. We also have a special exclusive interview with the head of the American military alongside the head of the British military. I spoke to them on Friday from Washington about exactly what is going on in Ukraine and the prospects for the conflict there that affects us all in so many ways. And here at the desk with me, some fantastic guests and the national treasure, Stephen Fry. So plenty to chew over, plenty to talk about. Hope to see all of you here at 9 on BBC One.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Laura. Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Right, plenty of sport happening this weekend, not least the Rugby World Cup, of course, happening in Marseille. Mike is there for us. It's a gorgeous view there, Mike. How's it all going out there?
It is, yeah, just by the harbour side in what they call the Old Port in Marseille. A great place for the fans to gather. It's just near all the bars that they were gathered in last night to watch the match if they weren't at the stadium. And yeah, it's already very busy here this morning. People coming and going out for pleasure cruises on the water into the Mediterranean. Maybe not able to afford the huge boat there, the Coral Ocean, which is around £700,000 a week, or euros a week to hire. So that's a bit out of our BBC budget. It's a real buzz, a real hive of activity. I guess being a Sunday, people have got the day off, a lot of them, so they're taking a pleasure cruise out on the water. This is where you queue up and get onto the boat. In fact, I would go, but I don't want to let you down, Ben and Victoria, so I'm not going to leave you in the lurch. I'll wait maybe until after I finish my breakfast duties this morning, but I might have missed the boat by then.
Oh, Mike, we wouldn't want to be responsible for that, missing a nice cruise around the harbour. We appreciate your thoughtfulness. Thanks. We'll see you later. Glorious sunshine there in Marseille. What stunning weather.
Does look amazing.
Beautiful.
Let's see how they fare later. I think probably South Africa might have the edge on that because, of course, they're better used to the hot weather. So we'll see what goes on with that game.
Yeah. Should we find out what the weather's doing here? Sarah's got that for us. How's it looking then, Sarah?
Oh, good morning to you, Ben and Victoria. Well, from Marseille to Eastbourne, we have got some beautiful views over the coastline. In fact, many of us waking up to a fine sunrise this morning. Lots of through the week ahead. Back to you both.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Sarah. So some fresher weather ahead. Fingers crossed. Thanks very much, Sarah.
Watching breakfast. It's 7:48. Time now for Click. Hello, good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Victoria, Valentine and Ben Boulos.
Our headlines today. The death toll from the earthquake in Morocco rises above 2,000 as rescue teams search for survivors.
I'm Anna Holligan in the heart of Marrakesh. People are packing up their belongings, but they still don't know when it will be safe to go home.
Back in custody, but questions remain about how terror suspect Daniel Khalif was able to escape from prison.
2 men have been arrested amid allegations that a parliamentary researcher was spying for China.
Good morning from a sunny Marseille, where England fans are certainly celebrating after their side's remarkable win in the face of adversity. Despite being a man down for most of their opening World Cup match against Argentina, they stunned the Pumas with a fantastic kicking display by George Ford.
A return to normality for the Great North Run here in Newcastle. Around 60,000 people will be lining up here this morning to take part, alongside Sir Mo Farah, who will be running his last ever race.
Good morning. Our September heatwave continues, and today is likely to be the 7th consecutive day with temperatures above 30 degrees. But with the heat and the humidity that we've got comes the threat of some thunderstorms. They could be torrential and bring some flash flooding at times. I'll have all the details coming up shortly.
Hello there, it's Sunday the 10th of September. Our main story today. At least 2,000 people have been killed in a devastating earthquake in Morocco. A further 2,000 more have been injured, and authorities have now declared 3 days of national mourning.
The quake struck in a remote area in the Atlas Mountains, around 45 miles south of Marrakesh, a popular tourist destination. Our correspondent Nick Beak has this report. OK, Anna, for the moment, thank you very much. Anna Holligan there for us in Marrakesh. As I said, we'll be hearing more about the rescue efforts from some of those involved in that in a short while. But for the moment, let's find out what else is happening in the news. And Victoria has more of that for us.
Thanks, Ben. Let's talk about the terror suspect, Daniel Khalif. He's expected to be transferred to a high-security prison following his arrest after 4 days on the run. Questions, though, remain about how a 21-year-old was able to escape from a Wandsworth prison in London. Vincent McAvenny is outside Scotland Yard. Vincent, what more can you tell us today?
I love the hot weather. I love it. I'm sitting here with a cup of tea. It's funny because I went in to get a coffee from a coffee shop yesterday. I got an iced drink and the guy in front of me asked for a normal, like a hot coffee. And the guy said, "Are you sure? It's 1,000 degrees outside and you want a hot drink?" And you're like, yeah.
Can't break some habits. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Let's find out what the weather is looking like for the next few days. Sarah's here with that. How's it looking, Sarah?
Oh, well, it is looking hot out there. It might be another day for your iced coffee today, Ben, I think, because, yes, heat and humidity holding on today. But for some of us, the weather is going to go bang as well. We've got some thunderstorms around. Beautiful start to the day. A lot of dry weather first thing. This is the 27 or so. Not as hot as it has been, but today likely to be the 7th day above 30 degrees. Back to you, Victoria and Ben.
Thanks very much, Sarah. Thank you.
It's 70 minutes past 8. The King of Morocco has declared 3 days of national mourning and ordered shelter, food and other help for survivors of the devastating earthquake that hit Morocco.
Well, with the death toll now above 2,000 people, it is the most deadly earthquake to hit the country since 1960. Well, joining us now is Mina Metoui from the British Moroccan Society. Mina, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
The rubble.
OK, Caroline, we must leave it there, but thanks very much for joining us. Caroline Holt from the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent. Thank you.
Now, thousands of brass bands were formed in the 19th century, in many cases by miners who'd rehearse after they'd finished working in the pits.
Some brass bands managed to survive even when the coal mines closed, but with fewer young people joining, there are fears this tradition could die out. 16-year-old Elise is one of the winners of this year's BBC Young Reporter competition and has the story.
Chris, that's right. James Cleverley saying it would not be credible to disengage. Really interesting. Thanks very much for coming up for us in Delhi to talk to us. Thank you.
Plenty of sport happening this weekend, including the Rugby World Cup, no less. That's happening in Marseille, and Mike is there for us by the waterside. There you are, Mike. Good start for England, and
yes.
All eyes on Scotland later.
Absolutely, such a huge day ahead. But yeah, we're reflecting on England's surprising victory. But yeah, let me just set the scene because it's such an important part of Marseille is the old port and the harbour, because the sea is the blood of this city. You can see cruise boats coming and going this morning because it's a Sunday. A lot of people got leisure time, so they want to have a little cruise out around the beautiful coves here. The fishing industry, that it really is the beating heart. Yes, what a story for 19-year-old Coco Gauff. That's just about it for now from Marseille, where, as you can see, it's a hive of activity. The fish market is bustling this morning. People getting their meals ready for later on. I can smell it. It smells absolutely gorgeous. And then, of course, there's a little matter of maybe a cruise out into the Mediterranean. I'm quite fancying... they've got lots of space, haven't they? Have you got room for a small one? Hang around long enough, maybe jump on at the last minute, or maybe, I suppose, I'll have to settle for just a stroll along the harbour. It's probably more my level, isn't it? But it is beautiful. Just look out there. The Mediterranean, perfect place for Scotland fans to get ready for their huge match later on today. In fact, actually, this boat might suit, mightn't it? There's no one on it. It's Lawrence's fishing boat.
I think that one suits you, Mike. I think that looks like your vessel to go out cruising in, I think.
Yeah.
And we're hoping
nice and sturdy.
We're hoping, in the words of your guest earlier, we're hoping for beaucoup de kicks for Scotland and Wales. We'll look forward to
yes.
that.
Well, I'd quite like to see a try.
Is that what try looks like? Okay, spectacular.
Momo, yeah.
Spectacular. More from Mike over the coming days. Mike, thank you very much indeed.
I always get so nervous with him around open water. Then you're like, don't do it. Don't do it, Mike.
Can't imagine why. You're watching Breakfast. It is 8:47. Good morning. And we have some happy news to bring you, because after taking some time off to recover, from prostate cancer. BBC presenter Nick Owen has announced he will return to Midlands today this week.
Well, Nick was diagnosed in April, a day he described as the worst day in his life. He's been speaking to Ben Godfrey about how he feels to be coming back to work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just lost for words watching that.
Yeah, it's really moving, isn't it?
And the fact that his plea for more men to go and get screened has had that immediate effect from when he was sitting here talking about it just a few weeks ago. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Amazing. I think diagnosis has tripled in the last few years as a result of things like this. Many congratulations, Nick.
Yeah, and our best wishes to Nick on his return to Midlands today from all of us here at Breakfast. And if you watching at home would like more information about the risks of prostate cancer and want to use that checker that Ben mentioned, you can find it at prostatecanceruk.org/risk-checker. Or if you can't remember all of that, just type it into the search engine. I'm sure the links will come up.
Yeah, you'll find it. And many congratulations, Nick. Let's talk about something going on today. It hasn't been going on really in full swing for a few years now for different reasons, but 60,000 of you are taking part in the Great North Run today.
Among them, Sir Mo Farah, who
Yeah.
says he's looking forward to spending more time with his family when he finally retires from competitive running after today's race. Alison Freeman is there for us this morning, somewhere on that route. Hi, Alison. Indeed, Alison, thank you very much, and good luck to the Foxes and everyone running in that Great North Run today.
That is all from us here on Breakfast. We'll be back from 6 o'clock tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
A manhunt, a messy start to the political season. There's a lot going on. A hug far away from home. The Prime Minister on parade at a big international get-together.
It's personally really special for me to be here. India's a country that's near and dear to me.
But the distance from Downing Street doesn't make problems at home disappear. A prison escape, prompting claims government decisions left the system strapped for cash and unsafe.
This is on the government's watch. It's down to them. They withdrew over £900 million worth of funding.
On top of the hunt for crumbling concrete in public buildings, with ministers' noises off.
Does anyone ever say, you know what, you've done a good job because everyone else has sat on their and done nothing?
Stress for schools and easy picking for the opposition.
This crisis is the inevitable result of 13 years of cutting corners, botched jobs, sticking plaster politics.
And allegedly, a Westminster staffer arrested for spying for China. So we'll ask this morning, while the UK bakes, how much more can go wrong while the Prime Minister's in the Indian sun? The man responsible for jails joins us. Can the Justice Secretary tell us how on earth Daniel Khalif escaped? Jonathan Reynolds, who wants to be Labour's captain of industry, is live in the studio with us too. And an exclusive interview with these two from across the Atlantic. The head of America's military and the head of the UK's military. Admiral Sir Tony Radakin and General Mark Milley join us from across the pond. Hello, hello, and with us on a busy weekend for the news. Just back from his own visit to Ukraine, a national treasure, I think, Stephen Fry. Salma Shah, Conservative former advisor who's seen plenty of government crises, and with impeccable timing, the Chief Inspector of Prisons, Charlie Taylor, is with us this week. Let's take a look at what is making the news, and no surprise, a lot of the front pages go on the extraordinary story of the escape and capture of Daniel Khalif. The Independent says captured, with a picture of the canal path in West London where he was found. The Mail on Sunday has clues about how they claim spooks tracked him down using phones. The Mirror says he had bragged that he would escape from jail, but also includes a picture of that terrible earthquake in Morocco. And we can show you here some of the latest images of what is happening there. These are drone images of some of the attempts to rescue people from the rubble. An appalling situation unfolding. But what's getting a lot of tongues wagging in the UK this morning is the front page of the Sunday Times. An incredible story. Allegedly, a House of Commons staffer has been arrested on suspicion of spying for the Chinese. Well, let's kick off with that. I mean, Salma, you worked in the Home Office among other departments. What will be going on in government right now? Now we know this.
And sometimes even less, even worse at the weekends.
Okay, well,
we'll get into Zooming during COVID, and you can imagine what it was like then.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that in a couple of minutes just with the Justice Secretary. So let's remind ourselves then of what is going on. Daniel Khalif has been caught, but how on earth did he escape? Alex Chalk is the man charged of fixing all of this, the new Justice Secretary. Welcome to the studio for the first time. Now, we can't talk about Daniel Khalif's alleged crimes, but we can talk about what is going on in Wandsworth Jail. Were there enough staff on duty on the day he escaped with the right training?
Is the biggest investment in the prison service since the Victorian era.
And you obviously want to emphasise that there have been many criticisms
it's about decency
of how
as
things
well
have
as
gone
security.
in the last few years. We've got Charlie Taylor with us in the studio this morning, who's the Chief Inspector of Prisons. Charlie, I'm sure you'll have been listening very carefully. The Cabinet Minister wants to emphasise money that is going in now, but does it wash what he's saying about staffing in Wandsworth?
The family have my word, and Hetty, her friend, has my word. We will do everything we can to keep her safe and to ensure there's justice in her case.
Okay, Justice Secretary Alex Chalk, thank you very much for being with us and with our viewers this morning for the first time in your new job. Thank you very much indeed. Well, let us know what you thought of the Justice Secretary's answers about all of the dramatic events that have happened in his short time of the job so far. You can email me, kuenssberg@bbc.co.uk. If you're social media inclined, you can use the hashtag #BBCLauraK, and we'll try and share some of your conversation later in the programme. And the headlines, as ever, are unfolding on the BBC Live page. The address is there for you now. Now then, to my table trio. Charlie, there you were highlighting the long-term issues here. Alex Chalk obviously wanted to highlight what the government's been doing in the last couple of years, but was he realistic about the scale of the problems? Very interesting indeed. Now, we were talking a few minutes ago about that extraordinary story about allegedly a parliamentary staffer being arrested for spying for China. A few minutes ago, the Prime Minister was asked about this while he's at the G20 summit in Delhi. This is what he had to say. And no doubt you'll be able to follow the rest of that story as it unfolds across the rest of the BBC today. Now, as we've just been talking about, the real-life consequences of the conflict in Ukraine for men, women and children are profound. The country's incredible resistance, Stephen was telling us about, to the Russian invasion has been bolstered by billions and billions of pounds and dollars from the West. Over the summer, Ukraine has been trying to push back Putin's forces, the summer offensive, and there's been some success. But for how long can they rely on weapons and vital support from other countries? The Chief of the UK's Defence Staff, Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, has been in Washington this week with his counterpart and friend, the head of the American military, General Mark Milley. And we were able to speak to both of them exclusively, side by side. And we asked how much progress is really being made in Ukraine and who's winning right now. I'm sure somewhere in the world there is a political contest for best granddad, but the two heads of the military on both sides of the Atlantic speaking to us exclusively there. Now, back to home. A few months ago, Labour's Shadow Business and Trade Secretary Jonathan Reynolds said that voters were yet to comprehend the scale of Labour's ambition for the economy. What does he reckon now? Well, he's here in the studio. Let's start, though, Jonathan, with the big story of the week, the escape of Daniel Khalif. Now, the Justice Secretary a few moments ago told us that all of the protocols were in place and there were enough staff. But is Labour satisfied with the government's explanations so far? Okay, Jonathan Reynolds, thank you very much indeed for being with us this morning. It's always great to have you in the studio. Now, it is nearly 10 o'clock and we started this morning talking to the Justice Secretary, Alex Chalk, after another messy week for the government with a terror suspect escaping from jail. I asked him if he knew yet what had gone wrong at Wandsworth Jail. Now, as ever, you have been getting in touch. Thank you for letting us know what you think. On jails, Brian Kirk said if they have to spend 23 hours in their cell, it will give them time to think about their impact on their victims. But Claire Riley, a different viewer, wonders how many people are in prison purely because they have been failed by mental health services. Thank you, as ever, for sharing their views. We do read them all, and as you know, we use them as questions on the programme sometimes. So thank you very much indeed for getting in touch. Now, Labour, of course, as we've just heard from Jonathan Reynolds, is always keen to talk about how tricky things have been for the Conservatives in the last few years. Whatever your political views, the reality is it has been an incredibly bumpy, chaotic time. So here at the BBC, we set out to work out why in a new documentary series that someone sitting close to here, well, me, has been working on for the last few months. State of chaos, that's not just describing my life. Salma, you were in government for a lot of that period. We're looking at 2016, from the morning after the referendum until the departure of Liz Truss. Why do you think things went so mad or were so sort of traumatic?
Definitely.
Nobody would guess it.
Nobody at all, Salma.
No,
First damning from a former advisor.
There you are.
Goodness me. Well, my very honourable trio at the table this morning, thank you so much for being with us and giving us all of those really interesting insights. Thank you, of course, for your company as always. You can watch the first of that series, State of Chaos, on BBC Two tomorrow night and then each week after. But the end of this week when events, oh yes, those things, events, have knocked Number 10 off course again. There's been attention from the outside on what's going on the inside of jails, which has given another excuse to the Tories' rivals to claim that decisions of past governments are coming home to roost. The smoother start to the autumn political season that Rishi Sunak might have hoped for, what happened to that? The Prime Minister will land back from the summit in India soon, and he might not be blamed for wondering what will have gone wrong by the time he hits the tarmac. You can catch anything you missed today on iPlayer. I'm heading soon to the newscast studio in a few minutes for our next edition of our weekend podcast. Try that out on BBC Sounds if you fancy. And I will look forward, of course, to seeing you back here, same time, same place, next week. Goodbye for now.
Live from London, this is BBC News. More than 2,000 people have been confirmed dead in Morocco's worst earthquake in decades. Thousands have spent a second night sleeping in the open air.
Look where all these people are sleeping. There's no help for us. Our houses have been cracked, others destroyed, like my daughter's house, which has collapsed. We are in a chaotic state.
UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak warned the Chinese premier of his concerns about Beijing's interference after the arrest of a parliamentary researcher on suspicion of spying. World leaders formally adopt the joint declaration at the G20 summit in Delhi as India passes on the presidency to Brazil.
The final communique is adopted to the relief of the Indian presidency, but there is disappointment in Ukraine that the language was watered down. The Russian foreign minister says the summit was a success.
Joe Biden arrives in Hanoi to sign a new strategic partnership nearly half a century after the US military withdrew from the Vietnam War. Hello, very warm welcome. I'm Samantha Simmons. We start in Morocco, where 3 days of national mourning have been declared following the powerful earthquake there, in which 2,000 people are now known to have died. These pictures show the moment the quake struck the city of Marrakesh late on Friday, prompting people to sprint for the streets. The city is reporting a lower death toll than other areas, but considerable damage to buildings. Thousands of Moroccans have spent a second night sleeping outside on the streets, fearing aftershocks. Some have been describing their fears and sense of loss.